Huddle is a leading performance analysis company empowering sports teams to achieve their goals with best-in-class software and hardware. Sports are a powerful force. To us, it's not only about winning or losing, it's about what playing sports gives back to everyone involved. Our passion is to help coaches, athletes, analysts, recruiters, leaders of sports organizations, and fans get the most out of every moment. Come visit us at huddle.com. Welcome to Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric, a show about the international teaching experience. Teaching internationally is one of the best decisions you can make as an educator. In this show, we will meet teachers and administrators from around the globe living and working internationally. Our hope is that their stories and experiences will inspire you to explore the world of education. We will learn about all aspects of international teaching, from becoming an international teacher to what countries are the best fit for you, to the challenges of being away from your home country. Come take this unforgettable journey to the world of international schools with Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Global Take here on SchoolRubric. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Nick DeForest. I'm the host for this episode, coming to you from Vienna, Austria. And it's going to be a great one. We have some great guests and a great topic, I think. We're going to focus on student athletes, but not just the students themselves, how important a school's view on their athletic program is. And then how we can maybe work together between coaches and teachers and admin, parents and students to best serve our students, whether they're an athlete or maybe not yet. We're going to talk a little bit about co versus extracurricular activities. And just to get ahead of it a bit, co are usually thought of as outside of the school day activities, but complementary to the curriculum, where extracurricular activities are not tied to the curriculum. And it's a bit of a thing, how you call it, how you view your athletics that we're going to dive into today. But I'm not alone. We have some great guests that I mentioned, so let's bring them on and welcome them to the show. Welcome, everybody.
Hello. Good to be here.
Hey. I have people from all over the world, right? I'm in Europe, and then beside me there is Steve Razidlo. He's a director of the American School of Doha in the Middle East. Down below, Chris McCallum. He is a high school teacher and coach at the American School of Brasília in South America. And then Kerstin Bender, PE teacher, coach as well, Western Academy of Beijing. So we are all over the place, which is awesome. That was just a little snippet. I want to let you guys maybe say a little bit more about yourselves. So yeah, Steve, please. Hey,
I'm very happy to be here. I'm in my second year at the American School of Doha, and it's a lovely, I still think in Fahrenheit, it's a lovely 90 plus degrees here in our neck of the woods, and we're happy to be with you today.
Great. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I'm here in Brazil. I'm not exactly sure the temperature today, Steve, but we're doing pretty good here too. Really excited to be here and connect with some great people about something I'm passionate about. So let's go.
Awesome. Kerstin, last but not least.
Yeah. Hi, I'm also excited to be here. I'm dialing in from Beijing. This is my third year here at the Western Academy Beijing, and we're heading into winter, so there's no more sunshine and palm trees around. It's getting colder, and we've turned up the heat. But yeah, excited to be talking about the topic today.
Yeah, super. Well, then let's get right at it. Let's roll question one and get us all started.
Let's get it started. Athletics are co-curricular in educational settings, but they are often still called extracurricular. Does it matter how a school views athletics for teachers, parents, and/or students? I don't know.
Yeah, super, super. Well, we're going to kick it off with a guy who's done a lot of work in this area. Chris, lead the way for us, please. What do you think?
All right. Well, I think I'd like to start by disputing the first statement that all athletics are co-curricular.
Yeah.
I think a lot of schools tend to just assume that the unwritten curriculum is going to happen when kids walk into a gym with a coach or onto the field, or even into any other activity in the school. For a lot of my work has been kind of making that authentic and real connection to curriculum outcomes that the school utilizes. So I would argue a lot of programs that maybe consider themselves co-curricular may not be engaging the curriculum in any real authentic or intentional way.
Yeah, that's great. It doesn't just happen, right?
That's right.
Steve, what do you think?
Well, I would like to piggyback a little bit and say that it absolutely doesn't just happen. And we're finding that out a lot as schools across the planet are coming out of COVID and back into to competitions or celebrations or performance venues. We're looking to have a first play after school. We've had our first volleyball tournament in gymnasiums. Remember when we used to go to gymnasiums with kids? Well, we're back and we're coming back, but those are not automatics. And after a year and a half or more of absent time, one of the things that we're learning is that there's a lot of teaching to do about what the value of our activities are, whether they start in the classroom and extend onto the field, or whether they're exclusively on the field. And I want to make that point that coming out of COVID, we have a lot of relearning to do and a lot of acculturation to return to in our different schools across the world.
Yeah, great point. We're seeing that as well here. Parents hadn't had their kid on a team in a few years, forgetting some of these things that were just normal before.
Right.
Yeah. Kerstin, let's hear from you.
Yeah, and so while here in Beijing or in China in general, we've been lucky enough to have left the online period behind us for quite some while, and we've like last school year, we pretty much were only online for 3 weeks, but we still could not travel, right? So competitions could sometimes take place within Beijing, but for a certain period of time also just within the school. So you could only have different school teams compete against each other. And so a little bit similar to what Steve and Chris have said, it takes a little bit of relearning because there's also still, a lot of people are still afraid of what effects it has if you are in an enclosed space. And so whatever we could host and do outside or outdoors, that was always more appreciated. So I think, yeah, and you hear it from, from a lot of colleagues around the world that it is a lot about this relearning and making sure people understand again what benefits really the co-curricular activities can have and why students should be engaged, and that we need to try and get back into it and make it happen.
Right. Well, Chris, you mentioned at the beginning about it's not inherently co-curricular just by having athletic program, and I totally believe that. But I think if a school does call it co and maybe doesn't make the link, that's still better off than a school that calls their athletic program or activity program extracurricular.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think it's a view, it's just a statement that isn't as important as anything else. It's extra. You don't need to do it. I don't know if what you think about that, Chris, about that.
I think we're, to make your program truly curricular. I mean, I'm a master's degree in and 10 plus years of coaching and working through this. And I don't think that I'm at that destination yet, right? So I think we're all on a different part of our journey. And I think by looking at your school mission statement and seeing that it does highlight all those different learning contexts and these things that maybe you're stepping through the door at that point. You know what I mean? And you got that work ahead of you yet.
Right. Hey, Steve, can I ask you directly? I know you were obviously a director in America before moving overseas. To AIS Vienna, by the way. How did your schools in your career, did anyone call them extracurricular activities or were they always
thanks. It's a great question. I think we had what we would call an American classic view of the difference between co-curricular and extracurricular. And the co-curricular were extensions of classroom activities. And oftentimes, students who were in a choral performance class, a choir class, for example. We had a great a cappella choir at one of the last schools that I was at. And in order to receive your class grade, in order to receive the marks on the assessments on the report card and the reports home, you had to participate in the concerts that were part of the series of work in any given year. Similar, not exactly the same in theater, and I think even sometimes some of the visual arts had a kind of a performance venue aspect. I go back to Vienna, Nick, and on the IB visual arts that a lot of schools have. So if it starts in the classroom and a grade is necessary with something that happens after school, we sometimes called it co-curricular. The extracurricular often had classic pieces like tryouts attached to it, and it wasn't necessary for you to get your diploma. I'll also say that for a time in my life, I was on the East Coast and saw American prep schools, which sometimes required that students participate in 2 sports seasons as part of, especially boarding schools. And I think maybe that's the kids busy and in the after school hours before evening. But we've seen some of that in boarding schools in Europe and other parts of the world too. And going back to mission and what you're aspiring to do for kids, to me is as important as the distinction of co versus extra.
Great points. Great. Well, we've been with us. We've been going live for about 10 minutes here. If you're out there watching, we would love to hear from you. If you stop scrolling on your social media feed, write us a comment, ask a question if you want. The producers will put those right on the show for us. But yeah, let's keep it going and let's go to question number 2.
The positive links between athletics and academic performance is well established. However, it is still commonplace for student athletes to hear from teachers that they need to make a choice between athletics and academics. What up with that? How do we bridge the gap between student athletes, teachers, and coaches?
Yeah, great. Big pet peeve of mine since I was in high school. Steve, let's hear from you first. What do you think about that?
I first think of the systems that we run in our schools. Are your absences for trips and sports activities, are they excused absences? And are you ever done communicating administration to teachers, to athletes, to parents about where these competitions and some of the draws on time away from the classroom are expected to fall in a calendar and are expected to be supported by the classroom teachers? Do we want to have our biggest summative assessments happening in the same weekend as the invitational basketball tournament? Some of the things like that. So I think of systems.
Yeah, fantastic answer. And I didn't think about how a school views excused or unexcused absences. Just assume that they're excused.
Remember?
But yes, school excused. Exactly. Super. Kerstin, how about you?
I think, I agree, first of all, with what Steve said. I think systems are really important, and you can't always, there's not always a solution for everything. Sometimes you need to be flexible in the decisions you make, and it also depends on always the people that you work with. But something that I've looked into now for some time, and I really hope to achieve, to be working at a school like that, or just convincing my school to become part of it, is the World Academy of Sports. Because they've started a program a couple of years ago, and at the moment they have about 25 schools participating, where you can do the IB diploma over 3 years instead of 2 years. And so I think that is a fabulous way in really supporting the athletes. Of course, you need to have those systems in place, right? Because that means possibly a lot of changes in what kind of teachers you need and where you put them and scheduling. But having been an athlete myself and coming from a normal German system where there wasn't any support like this, I think that is really a fabulous solution, because especially we know that the IB is so rigorous and it requires a lot of study and a lot of time commitment. So if you also still have the plans to, join a college with a scholarship, or just if that is your passion right now to be an athlete, then I think that is a great solution of also supporting your athletes in a way like this, if you can offer a program like that as a school.
That's great. World Academy of Sport. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Right, great. I'll have to look into it. Chris, what do you think?
I think just building off of what Steve and Kerstin have been talking about, they're talking about systems within the school. And I think communication with teachers and administration and all that is really important. Another part of it, I think, too, is communicating if you are co-curricular, that you are working to incorporate the curriculum, particularly through transdisciplinary skills. So partnering with your curriculum developers, whether it's social emotional learning, approaches to learning skills, or even talking to your CAS coordinators and seeing how you're supporting them if you are an IB school. Another thing that I think as far as systems is important is having systems to individualize the student experience. I think a lot of the time for me, starting off the season by communicating with kids on how their school's going, what they're capable of actually committing to. The kids have a better idea of that than we might think, So if a kid tells me they can do 30% of my program, I can say, well, you got to give me 100% of that 30%, rather than me sitting there expecting 100 and getting 30, and that turns into a big conflict between him and I and his teachers and these sorts of things. So I think pulling the students into that conversation and individualizing their experience is really important.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, our students are so busy. There's lots of things on offer for them, so it's not a 100% commitment all the time when you're on a team like it may be in the US, and we can make those things work. And I think you guys all kind of touched on it, having the systems communicating, and I think it comes from the director all the way down to the students and everyone in between, that everyone's on the same page, and there is value to playing sports, being in athletics, and the students should get the same message. I hate for a student to hear one thing from one teacher and then something from each other, so from another. So I think if it isn't happening, at staff meetings, at a all school meeting where sports is mentioned and talked about like it's valued, not extra. Of course, the students have to sign up, but it's a valued part of the school, and students should be encouraged to take part, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the ways that I think I've seen some of the best ambassadorship for sport coming in our schools is really coming from the teachers, and oftentimes high school teachers who are offering some of the high rigor courses. When you get an AP teacher or an IB teacher as one of your coaches, there's a mutual respect for that which really reaches high for our minds and does the same with our bodies and our competitive tendencies. And so I think having teacher coaches is essential, and trying to recruit teacher coaches who have an understanding of the passion and the culture that you want to have, that says, as a whole person in an international school, one of the great things I get to do is I get to play on a team, and I get to be in a wonderful classroom. I can't say enough about the fact that my kids got a chance to play baseball in Vienna and around the world, an American sport that I love and I love watching, while at the same time they were taking IB classes. Just fantastical. Some of the opportunities we provide, and teacher coaches really get that and respect that back and forth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think also what you just said with teachers being the role models and basically living and breathing possibly the mission and vision of the school by putting that active part into the classes, because they help with that at the end of the normal curriculum. And I think even more so, being the only female in the room at the moment, I think it's also very important that you have that from female teachers and then becoming female coaches, which I'm pretty sure all of you have the same experience to me, that it's still often like it's still more male coaches than there's female coaches. So I think
Oh, she's in and out. I'm never sure if it's me or her, but I think it's Kerstin, right? Steve, it's she's Oh, you're back. You're back with us now, Kerstin. You just broke up a little bit. Your last
okay.
part about female coaches.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just said that it's important to have that represented again in all the genders that we have at the school, and so then it also motivates all the students that we have at the school.
Yeah, absolutely. Visibility of female coaches was a global take. It's not a one and done type of thing. It's ongoing, right? It's important. Awesome. Okay, well let's keep this on going and roll into question 3.
Can we better prepare our future global leaders, not only by bringing athletics into the classroom, but also encouraging our students to join a team?
Yeah, I'm sure I know some of the answers, but there'll be some good points and tips and tricks maybe in there. Kerstin, why don't you kick us off with this one?
Okay, I would like to give a little example from my school that I'm currently at, the Western Academy Beijing, and I would like to give the kudos to our elementary school team because they're running something called the Olympic Dream Series, and I've not come across something like that in any of the other schools that I know of, and that's basically a lunchtime program. So of course, again, you need the systems that were mentioned before. Yeah. Because the PE teachers, all of them, and the teaching assistants, they're involved in it. And so sometimes their scheduling needs to be a little bit flexible. But it's really addressing all elementary school students, and it's run throughout the year. And they have a 90% participation rate because really everybody wants to be part of it. And they have events that are just one-off. So you would have all two second graders run the cross-country race that day. And then they also have things like badminton or table tennis, which would go on over a couple of weeks, and you have a series. Mm-hmm. And every student who participates gets a badge just for I did it and I participated. And it's just a great program because all the students, they're so motivated, and they take it out of the classroom and make it a community event. The teachers come out, their mentor and homeroom teachers come out to support them. And it's the life of the party every day when it happens, especially, of course, in summertime when a lot of it happens outdoors. And so I think that's a great way to get especially the young students started and motivate them to be athletes and to become active as part of their normal day-to-day school day. Right. So
I don't know. That continues, right? And then that continues through middle school, that maybe they play a team where they might not have. Yeah, that's great. Great. Steve, how about you?
I remember one of the Vienna stories of many was creation. Nick and Andy and the folks in Vienna created extra teams for basketball because kids who had not played the game were suddenly getting interested in being a part of a culture that said, I'm not there yet, but I can learn and I can grow. And I think all of us probably have that kid in our minds who tried something, who understood something different about herself or himself after having done so. And we all have those feel-good moments of getting somebody out on a field where they're a richer person and have a richer set of memories. I think the power of making memories in our schools through athletics and activities is sometimes not as well understood by those of us who haven't coached or been ADs or whatever, or athletes ourselves as we might have it want to be. But I love those moments. I live for those. I can't wait to be on the sidelines this weekend at a volleyball tournament where there's a couple of kids who are really coming into their own, who never thought they would be volleyball players when they first started.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's great to see it come full circle. Chris, what about you?
Oh, I might just nerd out completely on co-curriculars right now, if that's all right for a second. I think, just like Steve was talking about and Kerstin's talking about is creating this great experience for a kid, right? For them to experience sport in such a positive way. I think it's really important to recognize that doesn't just happen. That's an intentional thing that coaches and schools and our institutions plan out in a very effective way. Sport can do damage. We have to recognize that if we're not intentional about what we do with kids and what we do with coaches and parents, it can be a really bad experience. So that's where I think like the curriculum provides a lot of support. If you go and you look at your transdisciplinary skill curriculum, if you look at your social emotional learning curriculums, what that does is that just brings you back to the psychology of learning, performance, and wellness. And if you can, and if that's where we want to be, I think we can utilize that curriculum. And it creates an experience for kids that takes them from an ego and outcome orientation of I want to win, that this is the goal, to more of a task orientation to what Steve and Kerstin are talking about is what am I doing every day to get better? How am I making myself a champion of this moment, right? And then having that pride, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think there's a power in seeking out that framework, and that really what we're asking you to do is look at the psychology of sport and the psychology of learning, right? Which is really our job anyhow.
Yeah.
So,
I think if you have a school that has that tie-in or understands that or has that link to the curriculum, then you're going to get those teachers that aren't only just supporting your current athletes, but they're encouraging other students to join a team.
Yeah, who wouldn't want that experience, right?
Yeah, right. And that's where we're at for sure. Is everyone can be a part of a team, like you said, Steve. We'll make another team so you can play. You know, I'm still supportive of having cuts in athletics, but also then creating other teams for those students, you know, at the same side. And I think also athletics can be very academic, right? There's so many professions in there, great professions that are tied to sports. So I think that gets forgotten too, where IB scores and this and university, well, you can have a great life and career in sports, not being an athlete, you know, and that's something that I'm passionate about. And we started to do the Globetrotting Athlete Network that I've founded with some great people, trying to give some student athletes around the world an outlet to be academic and to connect with other students.
But that's sorry. That's also a good point, right? Because there is, especially for the younger students, so I'm currently teaching middle school, and a lot of times they think, well, the ultimate goal and the only thing I can do is really just be an athlete and play the Champions League or go to the Olympics or, you know, play in the NBA. And they do not consider those jobs that you just mentioned. So really talking about them and making them aware of, you know, all the possibilities that they have in life but having sports as a background knowledge and having also played it, then of course that opens the door if you want to work for the FIFA or another one of those organizations in whichever capacity, right?
Right.
Or one of our schools in the roles that we carry out, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, you talked a lot about the curriculum. You said you're geeking out. Well, I'm going to plug you for a second. If schools want to help link their athletic program to the curriculum, Chris is the guy. His website, we'll put it in the show notes, Truth-Based Athletics. He'll help you do that. And it's probably not as hard as you think. Right, Chris?
That's right. I'm through all the hoops. I can just pull you through now.
Yeah, there you go. Great. Well, you know, great discussion. We're not done with all of this yet. We'll come back briefly at the end, but we're going to turn our attention to Steve and the beautiful school of the American School of Doha for our school spotlight. Okay, so let's roll that.
It's time for School Spotlight on Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric. Let's learn more about the stories and information from schools around the world. What's your school story?
Our viewers today, at the start here, a quick teaser video talking a little bit about the American School of Doha here on the Arabian Peninsula. watching that quick video. We're so proud of all of the offerings that we have and the intentionality of our school mission, speaking to inspiring and empowering students to maximize their intellectual and their personal development. A little bit about our wonderful school, American School of Doha. We've been founded in 1988. We're in a single villa at that time. We're on a broad, expansive campus now. And we've grown to nearly 2,300 students from nearly 90 different countries. Our faculty, leadership, teaching, and support staff number almost 250 strong. We have another 130 support staff. And those of us who work at the school represent almost 30 countries from the ranks of employee. We are unique, I think, to some of the larger international schools that might either go AP or IB with our upper level rigorous, high rigor programs at high school level, and we have both. And it is a wonder to see students choose, and I would say 90+% of our high school students eligible to participate in either the AP or the IB programs do so. All of this work for us, all of our school blending of sport and competition and fun and play with academics comes from a set of core values that you see at the bottom of that slide: honesty, respect, compassion, responsibility. It's all there at the American School of Doha. Next. I can show that as the video coursed through many of our classrooms, we have kindergarten teachers like Isabel in the upper left-hand corner, or Mark in high school social studies. Look at us, we're masked, but we're working with full-on student classrooms in and around all of the spacious 60 to 70 square meter classrooms that abound in our school. The lower left, we have Carla as an art teacher, and the lower right, we have an elementary teaching assistant. Maria, I think is her name, working with our youngest learners. All across our school, students are happily engaged. They're working now back full on. We've had our students fully on campus since the last part of October, and been quite thankful that for 7 straight weeks we haven't had a COVID case in our country. Qatar is a thumb that sticks out on the Arabian Peninsula, and we are proud as anyone can be of the offerings at our school. If we show the next slide, I can give you another little bit of the flavor of what happens at our school. In the upper left-hand corner of the slide, you'll see students coming back to campus in October when we had permission from the Ministry of Education and Higher Education to come back full bore. And we put our welcome mat out for all kids because they hadn't been back in full force. Some kids hadn't seen each other at all in classrooms for a better part of a year and a half. In the upper right is Kevin Sage. He's the longest serving teacher in our school. He is a high school science guy, and he's also our varsity boys volleyball coach who's taking the kids into a championship game this weekend. We have swimming, we have golf, cross country, track and field, basketball, soccer, badminton. We have academic interleague play, and all in part of what we call a MESAC interscholastic competitive conference. It's a wonderful, wonderful big school in the Gulf State region that works in a conference of 6 like-minded, like-sized schools who love the idea that kids can participate and celebrate together through sport. And I think our next slide will celebrate a little bit of life in Qatar. Qatar, if you don't know, next year we will have the world shining a big, bright spotlight on our country. It's starting with some FIFA Arab Cup games here this November and December, but next year, starting November 18th and rolling through into the December break, will be the FIFA World Cup. The first time ever that football Football will be played in 8 different stadiums, all in one community. A city of 2 million, Doha, we expect 1 million guests to come into our region next year and celebrate the World Championship of Soccer. Qatar is beautiful. It's lovely. We hope to have some of you visit. There are cultural elements in the Arab culture that have dominated for centuries, and they're set against the fact that we live in an emerging country that really got its independence in 1971, and in the last 15 years has erupted on the world stage to show a skyline lit up like the picture shows there, and portending a wonderful life here in the Middle East region. Thank you so much for allowing us to show our school spotlight.
Thank you for traveling across the globe with us to learn more about international schools. To hear more from international educators and learn more about these fantastic institutions, tune in to our live Global Take episodes as we highlight international schools in our School Spotlight section presented by SchoolRubric.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Steve, and definitely keep me on your list for inside tickets for next year. I would love to visit for the first time and watch a soccer game, football game.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that was great. Thank you. And normally we're just going to come back and say a few things, but we have a question from Shelley that we want to maybe address as our last bit of the show. It's a great one. Shelley is at KIS Bangkok, and you read it there. It's about giving back to the community through athletics and coaches, and how would you communicate that? So, Kerstin, would you kick us off?
Yeah, I can, but I also need to refer to the World Cup again, because you're really in.
Oh, we're breaking up again. It's Kerstin's breaking up again over there in China, but we can come. Oh, we got you back. I was just gonna move on. We missed all of that, Kerstin. Unfortunately,
I'm sorry. I just said you're in for a treat, because I was a volunteer for the 2006 World Cup in Germany, and it's going to be one of the best summers of your life. It's really fabulous to host the world and to get to meet all these people. So yeah. And referring to the question, giving back to the community, I think it's of course through sports that is a great way of doing it. And I think especially us being international educators and athletic directors or coaches and working in international schools, it's always really important to include the local culture and the setting of the school we're in, and also then look where is something needed, right? And where can you help? And integrating that with a sports team through charity events or things like that. We recently had our high school students and middle school students from the volleyball teams organize a charity event on a Friday afternoon, and it was one of the first times that also parents could come back on campus and really watch them play against the coaches team and against the teacher team. And things like those are fabulous events. And then if they also generate a little bit of money to go to a good cause, I think that is definitely fabulous. And even more so if the initiatives come from the students, right? So I think if you can plant the seed in them that being living a life where they have so much at their hand that other people don't have, and telling them that giving back should always be part of what they do, then a lot of times great ideas can come from students directly.
Yeah, well, that's great. Great events. Chris, what about you? What do you think about Shelley's question?
I think that's amazing, and I think our schools actually, for the most part, do a pretty good job, especially internationally. We do pull in the community. We do focus on these things. I think just to kind of pull it back to co-curriculars and the idea of the psychology of this, I think, if we do a good job of that, we're kind of translating a language that ends up being a language of service to self, to the system, to the game of life, the game of sport, and to their greater community, right? So when if you check out my website, and there's my plug, we talk about love. We lead with truth. We lead with love through respect. That leads with truth. And we talk about doing it for self, the game, and each other. And it starts with understanding yourself, your immediate community, and the people within it. And, you know, we always talk about be selfish and serve others, because that's where we get that feeling of belonging and those sorts of things. So I think, you know, that can really inform your approach to all these sorts of things and to your connection to your community.
Right. That's great. Great. What about Steve? What about you at ASD? Are your athletes giving back to your community at all?
Yeah, our athletes here are giving back to community, and sometimes they're giving back within the school community, reading to younger kids, giving help to weekend clinics for younger kids. Those are some classic opportunities. I also love it when and coaches and sometimes coming from the kids, the student leaders themselves speak to ethics like thankfulness. That do you know, when you practice thankfulness, you're building belonging with kids at the same time. I'm not trying to go all nerdy on Chris's topic, but I think that's part of the intentionality of what we do, and when we're teacher coaches and we believe in what the experiences of sport and participation are. It's a natural for thankfulness and giving back and creating more belonging.
Yeah, super. That's I would say here, as I stress to the older kids, is, you know, your leaders. We're in one school, you know, K to 12. The younger eyes are watching you at practice, at games. So I just see them as role models, giving back inside our school community on a daily basis, right? And you mentioned thankful, man. I'm thankful every day. We're practicing. We're playing games. We're having almost 100 kids travel to Frankfurt and Munich tomorrow for some tournaments. So yeah, lots to be thankful for right now, for sure. Well, great question, Shelley. Great discussion today. We mentioned Chris's website. I think we'll put that up right now. Chris, you mentioned it, and I mentioned it. Truth-based athletics. There it is, right there. Fantastic. Check it out. But for all of you, Chris, of course, Kerstin and Steve, really great, and appreciate you guys taking the time to be on here with me. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Great conversation. Thank you.
Okay. Well, if you're out there, whether live or watching the recording, the next Global Take is coming November 18th. So not next Thursday. Thursday after that. Love to have you join us. So yeah, thanks again, and see you next time.
Thank you for watching School Rubric on YouTube. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe in order to stay looped in on all of our diverse collection of shows, interviews, panels, tutorials, and more from educators around the globe. And visit us at SchoolRubric.com for even more great content, such as our online articles, Interact magazine, featured podcasts, and more. Thank you.